This story began the way most wild tales do, quietly. No explosive headline, no viral buzz, just an oddball article buried in late 2024, barely noticed. It mentioned a little-known police chief named John Pelletier, a name that meant nothing to most. But now, he's smack in the center of a storm swirling around two of America's biggest cultural icons, Diddy and Oprah Winfrey. Here's where things start to spiral. That strange article? It hinted, almost offhandedly, that Pelletier had transporting connections to both Diddy and Oprah. Transporting what though? People? Money? Secrets? The wording was vague. So vague it felt like a throwaway detail. Nobody took it seriously, until everything blew up. Months later, a bombshell lawsuit lands. Enter Ashley Pum, dropping allegations straight out of a nightmare. Drugging, assault, even kidnapping. And right there in the thick of it, John freaking Pelletier. Not just mentioned, named as a key figure in the cover-up. Suddenly, that forgotten article didn't seem so harmless after all. According to the lawsuit, John Pelletier allegedly impersonated a California sheriff in 2018 to shut down Ashley Pum's attempt to report her abuse. The twist? He wasn't even stationed in California. He was based in Las Vegas. Yet somehow, he appears, talks her out of filing the report, and reportedly helps bury the entire incident. And this wasn't some isolated moment of coincidence. Think back to the 2017 Las Vegas shooting, one of the deadliest mass shootings in US history, with 58 lives lost and hundreds more wounded. Guess who was leading the response? Pelletier. Not just involved, he was the incident commander calling the shots. He controlled what the public saw and what was kept hidden. Surveillance footage vanished. Eyewitnesses claimed there were multiple shooters, yet the official story stuck to just one. Everything else? Redacted. Scrubbed. Then came the 2023 Maui wildfires. Another disaster wrapped in confusion. Roads were sealed off with no warning. Residents were trapped. Barricades blocked escape routes. The devastation was horrific. And once again, right there in the thick of it all was Pelletier. Literal flames were still burning, yet journalists were kept at bay, locals were silenced, and information was choked at the source. And who was standing at the podium, giving calm, polished press briefings while charred remains were still being pulled from the wreckage? You guessed it, John Pelletier. 3 separate disasters, 3 different years, 1 constant presence. Whether it was the Vegas shooting in 2017, Ashley Pum's buried report in 2018, or the Maui wildfires in 2023, Pelletier was there. Always composed, always leading, and somehow always walking away untouchable. But the cracks are finally showing, because this time his name isn't just whispered in conspiracy circles, it's inked in black and white on federal court filings. No more rumor, no more shadowy speculation, just hard allegations that he claims are baseless. According to Pelletier, he did nothing wrong. No misconduct, no cover-up, no conspiracy. But here's what's making jaws drop. Instead of fading into the background, he's standing tall, defiantly defending his actions and insisting he won't resign. And yet the allegations are heavy. Impersonating a California sheriff, covering up a violent assault, possibly even helping move victims. The pieces aren't just eerie, they're starting to align. That obscure 2024 article didn't just mention Diddy, it also tied Pelletier to Oprah. No hard details, just a cryptic mention that he was somehow a middleman for both. At the time, it sounded like a throwaway line. But now, with everything piling up, people are connecting the dots. Oprah owns vast land in Maui, the very area where Pelletier oversaw the police response during the fires. The same fires where residents were trapped behind barricades, screaming for help that never came. The same fires where people are still wondering, why did no one come? Is it a conspiracy? Maybe. Or maybe it's just that people are finally noticing the same face at the center of every storm, one that's managed to stay in the shadows for too long. Low-level spokesperson. He was the face of the operation, calm, controlled, and confidently delivering the official narrative while survivors were left screaming behind barricades. Pelletier claims the allegations are bogus, says he hasn't even been served, insists he's innocent and staying put until the investigation wraps. But the more you pull at the threads, the more that bravado starts to feel less like truth and more like someone clinging to control. There's a certain kind of figure who always seems to appear just when disaster strikes, not as a bystander, not as a hero, but as someone whose presence is oddly consistent. That's the unsettling pattern with John Pelletier. He isn't a celebrity, he doesn't seek the spotlight, yet somehow, when tragedy hits, there he is, right in the middle of the mess. And it's not minor stuff either. We're talking about the biggest crises of the past decade, like Maui, where everything about the fire response still raises questions. People burned alive in cars, roads mysteriously sealed, families locked out of their own neighborhoods. Eyewitnesses report cops physically blocking escape routes. And overseeing it all, that same steady voice behind the mic, John Pelletier, burying them. According to Ashley Pum, Pelletier didn't just discourage her, he posed as a California sheriff, despite being a Las Vegas officer, and made sure her report never saw the light of day. That's not just obstruction, it's impersonation, intimidation, and calculated silencing. At the time, Pelletier was an obscure figure, but during the Maui wildfires, he wasn't some unknown name. He was the chief of police. And when the public started asking hard questions, when leaked footage began contradicting official reports, it was Pelletier who stepped forward to calm the storm. He wasn't just issuing press releases, he was shaping the entire narrative. That alone would raise eyebrows. But when you rewind to 2017, back to the Las Vegas mass shooting, where Pelletier was the incident commander, it starts looking a lot more orchestrated. Same pattern: chaos, redacted footage, public confusion. He controlled the story there, too. Now, with the Diddy lawsuit dragging him back into the spotlight, that pattern feels less like coincidence and more like design. 3 major events. 1 constant figure, always calm, always in control, always rewriting the narrative. Now it's all out in the open. The lawsuit is public. The allegations are spelled out in black and white. And for the first time, people are starting to connect the names and the patterns. Pelletier's defense: he insists he hasn't even been served, that it's all nonsense, faceless, a smear campaign. But if that's true, then the biggest question remains: why was he even there? Why would a Las Vegas police commander insert himself into a California case that had nothing to do with his jurisdiction? Who called him in? Who gave him access? These are the questions that keep hanging in the air, unanswered, unexplained, and unsettling. Then there's Oprah. Her name isn't in the lawsuit. She hasn't been formally accused of anything. But that same 2024 article, the one that connected Pelletier to Diddy, also linked him to Oprah. It didn't give specifics, just a chilling line about transporting connections. At the time, it sounded vague, forgettable. But now, with this lawsuit surfacing, that eerie little line feels prophetic, because when you zoom out, a new picture emerges. Pelletier isn't just showing up at the scene of chaos. He might be sent there, not as a responder, but as a cleaner, a fixer, a man who doesn't just enforce the law, but manipulates it, shielding the powerful when things go dark. If that's the case, this isn't just corruption, it's coordination, and that shifts the whole narrative, because if John Pelletier is what some now suspect he is, an embedded operator who moves through police departments and power circles with quiet authority, then these disasters, these crimes, these moments of national chaos might not be as spontaneous as they seem. ChatGPT said, "Department to shut a victim down." That flexibility, that chameleon-like ability to shift roles and slip through the cracks, is what's got people really rattled. This isn't just about one man accused of bad behavior. It's about a system that allows someone like John Pelletier to move between high-profile disasters, to manipulate narratives, and to vanish behind official statements. The mayor of Maui has already called for him to resign, saying it's time for accountability. But Pelletier isn't budging. He says stepping down would be premature, that the public is rushing to judge. But no one's rushing. People are connecting dots, because this isn't about one moment, one incident, one allegation. It's about a trail. Vegas, Maui, now a lawsuit tied to Diddy, and the same man hovering over all of them. What's most disturbing isn't just the accusations. It's how unsurprising the silence has become, how easily stories get buried, how predictably footage goes missing, how common it's become for the truth to get lost when certain names are involved. Pelletier might not be the mastermind, but he sure seems like the cleanup crew, the one they call when something needs to be handled quietly. That's not corruption, that's a machine. When you look at it all together, it feels less like coincidence and more like choreography. And maybe that's why the lawsuit against Diddy hit so hard, not just because of what happened to Ashley Parham, but because it lifts the curtain a little. It exposes that there are people whose entire job may be to shield others from consequences. Victims get ignored, cases vanish, public records get sealed, all while powerful names keep living untouched lives. If Pelletier is being honest, and he really had no involvement, then it's the worst coincidence in modern law enforcement history. But if the allegations are even partially true, then we're looking at a guy who's made a career out of protecting people, not with justice, but with silence. There's another layer that nobody wants to say out loud. Why is someone like Oprah's name even being floated in this? She's built a brand on being America's moral compass, uplifting stories, inspirational books, charity work. But if this man had ties to her, too, if he really was running transporting connections for both her and Diddy, then that's not just a red flag. That's a wrecking ball. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe someone threw her name in to get clicks. Or maybe there's a reason people in power always seem untouchable, because there's someone like Pelletier making sure the spotlight never stays on them long enough. That idea alone is enough to shake your faith in how things work. And he's not the only one. If Pelletier exists, there are probably more like him. Not police chiefs, not politicians, just invisible middlemen who can pull strings in different cities, in different cases. The kind of people who never make the headlines until something slips. The fact that Pelletier is now in the news, now facing pressure to step down, might be the first real crack in whatever this thing is. But cracks aren't collapses. Not yet. He's still in office, still running the department, still denying everything. And maybe that's why this story matters, because it's not just about the crimes. It's about what happens after. Who gets protected, who disappears, and who stands there at the mic telling the world to calm down while the truth gets swallowed. There's a reason people are angry, a reason they're skeptical. You can only erase so much before someone notices the fingerprints left behind. And right now, all the smudges point to one name. Whatever happens next, whether it's resignations, indictments, or just more silence, the damage is already done. Trust is cracked. People are watching closer. And if this really is bigger than Pelletier, then a lot more names might be coming next, because middlemen only stay invisible until they don't.